Sure, fine. Let's do this one, I guess. Oh, boy.
Rape, murder, war. They all have one thing in common. Men.
Ah! What the fuck?
Aggression, violence, ambition unchecked by conscience. All the stuff of toxic masculinity, right?
I mean, toxic masculinity is when you use your masculinity to be toxic towards someone. Like, if somehow you committing sexual assault is tied to your idea of what makes you a man, then that would be toxic masculinity. But just being a man and doing bad things is not what toxic masculinity means.
And the solution is obvious. Make men less toxic. Make men less masculine. Make men more like women.
No, that's not what toxic masculinity means. It means stop being toxic, not stop being masculine. If the only things you view as masculine are the negative aspects of men, then you have a very low opinion of men.
But I'm here to tell you that that way of thinking is not only wrong, it's dangerous. Here's why. When you try to make men more like women,
No one's telling you to make men more like women. This is a complete straw man.
you don't get less
Or I guess a straw woman.
toxic masculinity. You get more. Why? Because bad men don't become good when they stop being men. They become good when they stop being bad.
Yep. Which is what toxic masculinity and calling it out is meant to do. Trying to get people to stop bad behaviors, not stopping them from being masculine. It's stop using their masculinity as an excuse for said bad behavior.
Aggression, violence, and unbridled ambition can't be eliminated from the male psyche.
Aggression, violence, and unbridled ambition. Aggression and violence, you think, are fundamental to what makes a man a man? Again, you have a very low opinion of men.
They can only be harnessed. And when they are harnessed, they are tools for good, not for harm. The same masculine traits that bring destruction also defeat tyranny.
No one tell Japan about the nuclear bombs. Oh boy.
The traits that foster greed also build economies. The traits that drive men to take foolish risks also drive men to take heroic risks.
There are no female firefighters. You heard it here first.
The answer to toxic masculinity isn't less masculinity.
No one said it was, you fucking idiots. This is a complete straw man. No one said the bad part of toxic masculinity was the masculinity. It's the toxicity. Remove the toxicity, and you still have a man who is masculine if they'd like to. They aren't using their masculinity to be toxic towards themselves and others. Fucking straw man.
It's better masculinity. And we know what that looks like. It's a young man opening the door for a girl on their first date. It's a father working long hours to provide for his family. It's a soldier risking his life to defend his country.
I'm gonna send these soldiers to Iraq to protect our oil interests. That'll protect the country.
The growing problem in today's society isn't that men are too masculine. It's that they're not masculine enough.
Has nothing to do with how masculine someone is. It has to do with their toxicity. Again, complete misrepresentation of what anyone is saying. Noodles Lolcat says Prager's graphs are half the fun of their insane videos. The main beauty of the graph at 133 is that there is a pie chart, so if more men become less masculine, the problem goes down.
When men embrace their masculinity in a way that is healthy and productive, they are leaders, warriors, and heroes.
Great! You're agreeing with people who talk about toxic masculinity. Yeah. Be masculine in ways that are good and not toxic. You get it. Great. You're completely misrepresenting these things, but like, yeah, great.
When they deny their masculinity, they run away from responsibilities.
No one's asking men to deny their masculinity. No one cares. If you want to be masculine, be masculine.
Leaving destruction and despair in their wake. The consequences can be seen everywhere. 1 in 4 fathers now lives apart from his children. And children who grew up without a dad are generally more depressed than their peers who have a mother and a father. They are at far greater risk for incarceration, teen pregnancy, and poverty. 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless. Of all the...
That we could get into, and how the inner cities have been devastated by America's economic policies and the... how do I put this? The results of things like slavery and Jim Crow, and the over-policing of the inner cities. We could talk about that.
Rocks upon which we build our lives, family is the most important. And we are called to recognize and honor how critical every father is to that foundation. That was said by then Senator Barack Obama in 2008. If we are honest with ourselves, he went on, we'll admit that too many fathers are missing from too many lives and too many homes.
Many of which are a result of the war on drugs, which led to tons of arrest for non-violent drug offenses. And ripped families apart. Good job, America. You're nailing it.
As much as we try to deny the need for real masculine strength in society, there's no denying its necessity. Healthy families and strong communities depend on the leadership and bravery of good men.
Okay, but you could have a community that has no men and it would be fine, right? Like, I agree. You can be a great man and be masculine and not be toxic and be beneficial to yourself and your community. That's great. But, like, women can also be beneficial to their communities, right? You don't necessarily need one or the other or both. Just do the best with what you got and who you are, and that's awesome.
Yet, the current trend is to feminize young men in the hopes of...
No, it's not. Source? I see you made a little jagged line that's going upward here that says masculine and goes up towards feminine. But there are no numbers. There are no sources. This is just a picture you drew. Like, what? This has nothing to do with reality. If we just say a thing and make something that looks like a graph, then that's reality, right?
Of achieving some utopian notion of equality and peace. And it starts at the earliest ages. In the school classroom, boys are invariably the problem.
Because boys, and this has nothing to do with the fact that they are boys, but in my experience, boys, when they're raised at home with their sisters, or even if they're on their own, are allowed to get away with more than their female counterparts. If a boy gets into fights and starts making a ruckus and a mess and everything, people just go, boys will be boys. But if a little girl does the same thing, they're disciplined and told to behave, right? So it's not that I think girls actually mature quicker than boys. It's that society pushes girls to mature much more than it does with its young men. For a small cleanse, Compu has a link.
This is the...
On the playground, aggressive games like dodgeball have long been banished.
I think that more has to do with liability issues with schools.
We tell young men that their intrinsic desire to compete is wrong.
No. And why are you saying that competitiveness is only a male thing? There are tons of sports in all schools, both male and female. Like, what? Everyone can be competitive. I'm not. But, like, a lot of people are, regardless of their gender.
Everybody gets a trophy. Don't run up the score. This anti-male tilt continues on through higher education.
What does participation trophies have to do with masculinity? Like, someone still got a trophy that says first place, right? Even so, what does that have to do with masculinity versus femininity? Like, what?
And into the workplace. It has created millions of tentative men, unhappy women, and confused boys and girls. Here's a secret that every woman knows. Women want real men.
Define real men. What do you mean by that? That means nothing. If you identify as a man, good news! You're a man. You are a real man. Whether you're trans or cis or whatever. Stop trying to, like, put this measuring stick up to people. This is what we're talking about when we talk about toxic masculinity. As Compu says, because if people that aren't the best get a reward, then how can masculinity toxically bury them?
Men they can count on and, yes, look up to. No amount of feminist theory will change that. I don't know any woman at any age who is attracted to a passive man who looks to her to be his provider, protector, and leader.
Okay, you work with Prager you probably know mostly conservative women who have expectations that conform to conservative gender roles. There are plenty of women who would not only be fine with, but prefer to take a leadership role in a relationship. I think that's weird also. I think it makes sense for people to be equitable in a relationship, but some people like to, like, take control and other people like to, you know, be more submissive, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I wouldn't take your anecdote, lady who's working for PragerU, as any sort of authority on what all women want. This is like when MGTOWs talk about, like, all women are sluts. Like, how about we don't try and paint all 4 billion women on this planet with the same exact brush, shall we?
Every woman I know wants a strong, responsible man. That's not a consequence of a social construct or cultural pressure.
I think it has to do with more consequentialism. You want to be with a partner who's responsible and able to get through the hardships of life, regardless of gender.
It's innate. The devaluation of masculinity
Biological essentialism. Lovely.
won't end well because feminine passive
True, Baha. True.
men don't stop evil. Passive men don't defend, protect, or provide. Passive men don't lead.
Hear that, twinks? PragerU doesn't want you.
Men don't do the things we have always needed men to do for society to thrive. In his book, The Abolition of Man, English social philosopher C.S. Lewis writes about this problem. He describes the tension between cerebral man and visceral man. By his intellect, Lewis explains, man is mere spirit, and by his appetite, mere animal. We need both. Take away one, and you're left with a man who's either weak or wicked.
Look, C.S. Lewis, not someone I would cite. Like, he's not a bad guy or anything. He just, you know, he's quite religious, pretty conservative. Maybe don't assume that his waxing philosophical about gender identity is going to be the end-all be-all.
And in a world of wickedness, weak men are nothing more than enablers of wicked men. Rape, murder, war.
There's nothing funny
They all have
of capitalism.
Winter O'Hare, thanks for your 3-month subscription streak.
2 things in common. Bad men who do the raping, murdering, and warring, and weak men who won't stop them.
How about we just blame rape and war on the people who commit them, right? Hey, great.
We need good men who will. It's not masculinity that's toxic. It's the lack of it.
Hey, dumbass. No one said in toxic masculinity that the masculinity part was the toxic part. It's using your masculinity as an excuse to participate in toxic behaviors. That's what that word means. Maybe, again, take 5 seconds to Google a phrase before you act like you know what it means. And boy, this is off topic. This is a complete ad hom and has nothing to do with the validity of the ridiculous statements that have been made. But I don't think I've seen a younger person have this much care and energy. Look at this woman. God, it looks like she's looking into my soul and asking to speak to the manager of my body.
I'm Allie Stuckey for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To help keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax
Just like toxic gas doesn't mean all gases are toxic. Yeah, that's a good explanation.
deductible donation.
Oh boy. Alright, we've been going for 3 hours. That might be it for today. I kind of want to go play Ghosts of Tsushima.